I want to go to the NFL.
I've said everything I want.
NFL.
But I'll be back to
All
it.
right, so Adam Gase is getting interviews. This is the Broncos offensive coordinator. Adam Gase is getting interviews with 4 or 5 different teams.
Sure. I got, wait.
Okay.
I actually, because you
notes?
wanted me to come prepared today, Gase is being interviewed by the 49ers, the Atlanta, the Falcons, the Bears. Buffalo now has sneaked in, and that's the 4.
The Jets? No, not the Jets.
No. 49ers,
By the way, the Jets are talking to Gary Kubiak.
49ers,
aware of
Atlanta,
that?
and Bears today.
Yeah.
And I don't think they can talk to Kubiak this week.
Maybe not first round, but they're interested.
You can only
they're
tell. You
interested
can
in
only
Kubiak.
talk when you're in a bye week. But tomorrow he's meeting with Buffalo. I'm talking about Gase.
Yeah.
So they're all coming in here.
So that's 4 teams.
Yeah. So he's doing it as we speak.
All right. So Gase is getting interviews with 4 teams. Jack Del Rio, we're told, might get an interview with the Oakland Raiders. So here's what I'm wondering. If things go haywire for the Broncos, if things go south in the first or second playoff game, and John Elway decides to make a move, and Gase and Del Rio have already agreed to something with another team.
I think you need a backstory there a little bit. Is John Elway going to make a move? Well, you and I both tend to believe that if John Fox loses the opening playoff game, he could very well be
Right.
retired.
Well, I think the conclusion you and I both came to was if he doesn't get back to the Super Bowl, he could be retired involuntarily, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we agreed on?
Yeah, it's
All right, so
I once wrote about a guy.
So here's the question. Well, go ahead.
I once wrote about a guy. He was retired yesterday.
All right, so
because they don't say he was fired.
yeah, he was let go.
Yeah,
it's much gentler.
Reached an agreement that he should be fired.
Mutual, like Harbaugh. we had a mutual parting of the ways. No, you were fired.
Yeah.
Should John Elway be looking at Adam Gase or Jack Del Rio and saying, you know what, if things don't go well, I want one of those 2 guys? Should he be interested in one of those 2 guys as his head coach?
Yes.
Both?
Yes. Simple answers, right?
Yeah.
I really liked the way that Jack Del Rio handled himself last year when John Fox was away. I like the fact that he made adjustments this year during the course of the season of blitzing more.
I'd still like to see more of it. Frankly.
I like my relationship with him. This sounds kind of odd, but I like the way he handles himself as a man.
No, he's a classy guy, and he has quite the presence.
And can I sit here and say he went to the playoffs once or twice in Jacksonville?
Twice.
Yes, twice. He didn't win a championship. Probably didn't win a playoff game when he went to the playoffs. But I think he's learned from that experience. I think that coming here and being a defensive coordinator rather than getting a job right away probably was the best thing in the world happened to him. He got back in the trenches. And the defensive players have great respect for him.
Sure.
So I think it would be a tough call if I were in John Elway, but he likes those challenges. That's why I think he'd be willing to get rid of Fox and take a lot of grief from people saying, how could you get rid of a guy? You know, he'd get national grief for saying, this guy got you to the 4 division championships you hired him.
You think that would intimidate John?
No,
I don't
that's
think
what I'm
Elway
saying.
would be intimidated at all by that.
So
he'll make the move he thinks he has to make.
Sitting in John's seat, I think he'd welcome. Let me talk to Adam Gase and let me talk to Jack Del Rio and make a choice. And I'm going to bring in Gary Kubiak and I'm going to talk to him. And I think those would be his top 3 choices.
What about Shanahan?
Boy, you and I have discussed this
Yeah.
on and off the air. And you spend time with Shanahan.
I think it'd be tough.
I think that would be John's ultimate challenge in his life, to convince the people of Denver that he was bringing Shanahan back.
So you think it would be tougher for him to convince the fan base and the media versus convincing himself?
No, I think he would be in that mix. That he is all of those things. He's been in the media. He's been in a fan. He's been with the team. So let's narrow it down. Let me come back to you.
Okay.
Shanahan, Kubiak, Del Rio. Now we're just assuming that the Broncos
Yeah.
would lose, and they're not going to lose the first game. Okay, Gase, Del Rio, Kubiak, Shanahan.
All right, I'm going to. I know a lot of people think I can't be objective about this, but I can be because of my journalistic training at Arizona State University. I believe Shanahan would be the best for a number of reasons. Let me ask you: Jack Del Rio, Adam Gase, Gary Kubiak. How many of them have won Super Bowls as a head coach?
None.
Okay, Shanahan, I believe, has 2. All right, right?
Two.
He also has.
He actually
also
has 3 because he was offensive coordinator at
Right,
49ers,
right.
so he had a lot to do
So,
with
so
that.
he knows how to do it. He knows how to get it done.
Do you really think you can
Hold on.
could do that in this city?
Hold on. Yeah, I do. I think there are a lot of people who would look at Mike and say, he'll know how to get this thing fixed if it is in fact broken. And they'll also look at him and say, the things that cost him his job, the things that led to his demise, I think 2 things. Number one, he didn't know how to build a defense in his last few years here. Well, their defense is in place. It's a really good defense. Mike wouldn't have to touch it. Number 2, Mike would not be in charge of personnel. And a lot of people ridiculed him for that. They said, well, he's trying to be general manager and he's trying to be head coach. And the Mike Shanahan that got fired was the general manager, not the head coach. Well, now he's got a guy playing general manager, and a very strong general manager and a very good general manager in John Elway. So all Mike Shanahan has to do is coach.
Well,
Hold on, one more thing.
I'm going to interview you here.
And who's he coaching? He's coaching a guy he has an incredibly good relationship with, and a guy he would make great use of, and that's Peyton Manning. What could be wrong about any of that?
Who would be his? I'm going to interview you
Okay.
here. We're going to take 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to ask you some quick hitters. Okay.
All right.
Who would be his offense coordinator?
Maybe he brings in Kyle.
Okay, so we got
Because right now Kyle has to deal with Johnny Manziel and Brian Hoyer in Cleveland.
Okay.
That can't be fun.
What does he do?
And not only that, when Mike's ready to leave in 3 or 4 years, who takes over?
Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan.
But it sounds like the Bushes.
He's getting interviews now.
I'm not talking about Bushes like around. I'm talking about the George Bush family. Because we're now going to have 2 more.
I
running
know.
for,
It's going
for
to be
president.
Bush against Clinton again,
So,
possibly.
Okay, my next question. Who would be, because he made a mistake. Hazlitt was a mistake from the very beginning. They just got rid of him in Washington.
Yes.
Mike made a terrible choice there. He made some bad choices in defensive coordinators. You say he didn't put together good defense. I heard, and I'm playing devil's advocate with you because I have
Okay.
great respect for Mike, but I heard that he tried to coach the defense. That was one of the problems is he interfered with the defensive coordinators. One of the defensive coordinators is a good friend of mine, 2 actually, and they said he tried to interfere into something he really didn't know anything about.
Well, I think the reason for that might be is he quickly lost confidence in Hazlitt.
Well, I'm talking about here. He tried to.
Oh,
interfere.
here. Yeah. Well,
like he didn't have enough on his plate being general manager and.
well, that's
lead
true.
the
But what
draft
I'm
and
telling
everything.
you is, all that stuff will be taken off his plate. All he'll have to do is be head coach.
Do you really think
he won't
that
have to worry about personnel? He won't have to
Do
worry
you-
about developing a quarterback. He's got
Do
Peyton
you
Manning.
think 2 hard-headed guys who went through a period of their lives where they didn't get along at all, and John Elway was not allowed on the property, and there were a lot of personal and professional issues involved. You had 2 hard-headed guys, which are still
Yes.
hard-headed guys. They're still hard-headed guys.
They're
That
both
they could work
successful, they're both
together.
stubborn.
I mean, so it comes down to a
yeah, I do.
decision of whether you bring back Peyton Manning for another year or you go to Brock Osweiler or whatever. That Brock Osweiler is the chosen one by John Elway. I think he'd be willing to.
Who better
change
to
that.
develop Brock Osweiler than Mike and Kyle
But
Shanahan?
do you think Mike and Kyle Shanahan really want John's choices? I just think that.
I think Mike
really
is at the
so
point
tough.
in his career
Do you,
then where yes, he is ready to let somebody else put together the roster, and the only thing he might want to have a say-so in is game day activations. Who's inactive? Who's active?
do you believe that the game has passed Mike by?
Oh, absolutely not. And all you have to do is look at all the interviews he's about to get for all of these jobs this offseason. He's very, very popular right now in the offseason. We know of the teams he's going to interview with, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were other teams he's going to interview with.
Well, I would assume Chicago's got to jump into that fray at some point.
Who else who else can salvage Jay Cutler
That's the
besides
whole
him?
point.
Yeah.
49ers, he was the offensive coordinator there. He led them.
popular figure.
He was one of the guys that led them.
And
to
I'll
Super
tell you what,
Bowl.
Steve Young and Joe Montana love Mike Shanahan, and I'm guessing they've opened their mouth about it already.
Yeah, and John Elway loved him when John Elway was the quarterback.
Right.
He wanted the reason why they got Dan Reeves was so they could get Mike Shanahan back here.
Go ahead, ask me who the defensive coordinator will be.
Well, that's where I was going.
Okay.
Who would be the defensive?
It'll be
coordinator?
Jack Del Rio, because I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job, and he likes it here, and it's a good team, and I think he'll stay here for at least another year.
Do you think that the community and the media, and we go back to what I said, would accept the return of Mike Shanahan?
I think there will be people who push back a little bit. Because there are people who were unhappy with him by the time. Look, his last 3 years here, he went 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. The defense wasn't very good.
He went 9-7 one year, I think. But
All right,
yeah, he's a
the point, they
500
were
coach.
500. He was a 500 coach the last 3
And they
years.
didn't
here.
win a playoff game since.
And they didn't win a playoff game.
Since Elway
True,
retired.
and, you know,
and
they
the
won one
history
playoff
is he didn't
game.
win.
Yeah.
He couldn't win a playoff game without John Elway.
Well, they did win one. They beat New England.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's not enough for a lot of people. I get that.
Can't win a playoff game without
I get that.
John Elway or Jake Plummer.
But here's the point. Here's the point, Wood. They're not getting it done under John Fox to John Elway's satisfaction or to the fandom's satisfaction if Fox doesn't win a Super Bowl this year. All right? So Mike is a guy who has gotten it done. People here know that he can get it done. People here know he has a great relationship with Peyton. People here know that John Elway is going to be the general manager now, not Mike Shanahan. And people know that a good defense is in place, so they don't have to rely on Mike trying to, put together a defense here.
You think, and forgive me, but I'm interviewing you as
That's
I would
fine.
if
Play
you were
devil's
Mike
advocate all
Shanahan.
you want.
Yeah, that Peyton Manning would say Mike Shanahan's his first choice.
Oh, they have so much respect for each other. It's not even funny.
You don't think that Peyton Manning? I'm trying to pose that not as a forward-leading question like salesmen do. So you don't think that Adam Gase would be Peyton Manning's choice because he's recommending?
I think
him for
Adam's
every
going to
head
get a
coach.
job. I'm assuming that Adam is gone.
But he can't take a job till they're out of the playoffs.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say, so the moment that they're out of the playoffs, and we're the worst case scenario, because we're not wishing this on John Fox. Worst case scenario is they lose the first game. They play at home, they get beat by Pittsburgh. John Fox would be gone the next day, in our thinking. That Gase couldn't have a job before 2 days. Don't you think that before he would fire Fox, he'd go to Firefox? It says like that he would go to Gase and Del Rio and
I don't
say,
know. Do you think he would want Gase or Del Rio to be his head coach? That's where we.
Well,
we've
or
just come full
or
circle.
Gary Kubiak.
Do you think John Elway wants Adam Gase to be his head coach right now?
No.
Okay.
I think he wants him to be his offensive coordinator for
Okay.
another 2
well,
years.
Adam's going to get another job in all probability, unless he just blows his interviews. He's going to get another job. So the Broncos will need a head coach and an offensive coordinator.
And you're offering,
Voila.
You're offering as an agent, you're offering a package deal. Kyle Shanahan comes as offensive
Sure,
coordinator.
why not?
And coach in waiting, and
Why
Mike
not?
Shanahan comes back, and his restaurant goes ballistic down there. It just goes,
It would be good for business. All right. All right.